I found this absolutely fantastic video on Sheffield's past, and it's been reconstructed. So I'll actually put that in the description of this video, and I highly recommend you watching it. But on here is the actual outline of Sheffield Castle, and I'm actually going to go into Sheffield now and actually walk around the outline and just show you how big Sheffield Castle was. Really needs to be marked out there a lot more than it actually is, because nobody actually really understands how the size of Sheffield Castle, but you will after I've actually shown you this outline in reality. So we'll get down there now. So before I trace the castle boundary, I just wanted to show you this sign on Castle Gate, and this shows you the area around here before they removed all the buildings. So you can still see the old town hall. This would be the Corn Exchange, and I'm really puzzled, what is this building here with the pillars in front? Can anybody tell me? Well, this board's got some really interesting information on here. We don't see enough of this information about Sheffield. I'll just step back and show you the board in full. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk down to where the River Don and River Sheaf is, and I'll start the guided tour of Sheffield Castle boundary. I just really want to show you how big it is. You can see the old British Rail offices, the Victoria Station. It's now the Metropolitan Hotel. Now, all this Greater Green looks nice at the moment, but what's the maintenance programme for it? Are they going to get bored of it in a few years and it's just going to become a dumping ground? Let's see. So I'll pop down to the River Don and the River Sheaf and pick up from there. So if you come down to Blanc Street Bridge, you'll see what was old toilets. It's now a cafe bar, or it was. It's shut down in lockdown, which is a real shame because it's absolutely fantastic vantage point. So many businesses fail very quickly in Sheffield. It's probably got the worst success rate for businesses. So we're on Blanc Street Bridge. Takes you down to the wick of that. So to trace Sheffield Castle, you need to find the River Don. That'll take you down to Ladies Bridge, the oldest crossing. Into Sheffield, across the River Don. And then if you come round here, this is the most important thing in Sheffield, the River Sheaf. Sheffield was named after sheaf and field, and that's where the name Sheffield came from. Now, before the Normans came along, there was a Saxon stronghold on this point. Then 1066 William the Conqueror came along and built a Motte and Bailey Castle, which got burnt down, I think it was 1266. And they rebuilt a stone castle. Then in the Civil War it was actually a royal stronghold. Cromwell then got hold of it, and by an act of parliament he had the castle destroyed. It's really strange because they say the castle wasn't discovered until the 1920s. Well, if it was such a famous castle, it was the largest castle in the north of England, there would have been a lot of folklore around it. How did it disappear? Wouldn't there have been actual records of it in the Houses of Parliament as well, if there was an act of Parliament or whatever to destroy it? Anyway, let's go on a tour of the boundary. It was actually here because it was a point between Northumbria and Mercia. With the rivers, there would have been the lines and things like that. So let's go on a tour around it. But if you look at this straight line across it, this was the front of the castle. Just here we can see what was the Alexandra pub, and the reason it's called the Alexandra pub, the Alexandra Palace was here, and it was a 4,000 seater theatre. So much of my history gone, and it must have been highly populated to have such a large theatre around here. So all the billboards are for the castle market. So somewhere beyond the River Don down here. And here was the front wall of the castle. Now I don't like modern architecture, but I do actually like the eye centre. And if you actually go in to the bottom of here, where you can see the pillows, you'll see some sort of little museum in there. You can see there's also a furnace in there from the 19th century. That was supposed to become a bar of some kind, which is such a shame, because it's dead space really. But like I said, you can look through the windows and see a bit of a museum from there and a display. Blount Street Bridge. But Sheffield feels so different when it's sunny like this. It's an absolute perfect day. There's not a cloud in the sky. Just imagine I'm walking along the front castle wall. Now after the castle was destroyed, it was turned into an orchard, then it became an industrial area. And what I'd like to see is, I'd like to see boundary markers all the way around the castle. So you've got a bit of a sign there saying Castle Orchard. But I'd like to see boundary markers all around the castle boundary, and I also like to see it lit up at night. So here you can see the old castle market. So somewhere under there the big castle remains. We have got some beautiful buildings left. Modern building, but like I said, I like that eye centre. But I did do the video the other day and it didn't quite come out how I wanted, and I'm so glad, because this video will portray this area in a much better light. So there's Lady Bridge, all this crossing into Sheffield over the River Don. Now we had so many pubs in Sheffield, there's hardly a pub left. There's a pub on every corner. A lot of the churches have gone as well. When you look at the old pictures of Sheffield, there was a lot more church spires. Just look at it. It is actually quite nice down here, but there's hardly any people who's getting a benefit from the Greater Green. But it was an EU project. They gave them a lot of the money to start it. So we've got the Tap and Barrel pub there, or it was a Tap and Barrel. It's called Petal now. That's not a pub anymore. So we've got a few information boards, but not enough. So this is another Sheffield pub that's gone. Brewer on the bridge, graffiti all over it. And we're actually looking down now into the Wicker area of Sheffield, and you can see, like I said, those beautiful buildings like a castle. So now we've come to the right hand side front of the castle, and we're now going to walk up from there at Waingate. So I've just come off Castlegate. I don't know how long these roads have been marked with Castlegate and Waingate, because they say the castle wasn't discovered until the 1920s. So did these roads not get marked as such before that? But I don't trust a lot of the historical information anymore. I think a lot of the time it's people's theories and not always the truth. So this is the modern Magistrates Court, built in the 1970s. Coming up to the old town hall. They built the new town hall in the 1900s. This became the court building. I think about 1920 it stopped becoming the court building. So on the left hand side of us we've got the castle now. That's the front section of the castle. There's a front section which is like the Stronghold, and then there was the outer courtyard as well. Now, this building's going to rack and ruin. It'll make a perfect museum or a hotel, exclusive hotel, but it needs something doing with it really quickly before we lose even more of its history. But on the left hand side is the old castle market, and that was the site of the stronghold of the actual castle. It was allegedly the largest castle in the north of England, and then Wessex University have done quite a bit of archaeological digging on it, and they probably saying it's the biggest it was the biggest castle in England. Why are we not playing on that in Sheffield? So you can see the castle boundaries marked out with the road signs. So how far it goes across, was the castle just to the left of me or it was to the right of me, I don't know. So as you can see, we've come to the end of the castle market. So we've come up from the River Don, and this first part up to here was the stronghold of the castle, and then we're going to move on to the outer courtyard. But you can see this was the old castle outdoor market, with the left hand side being the castle indoor market, and then if you look down here at this red brick building, that's where the sheep market started. Quite important because the River Sheaf goes under there somewhere. But here we had where Davis Cafe was. I think there was a second Davis Castle a little bit further up. Old Town Hall. Takes you down to Castle House. Co-op building that's now shut down, and the actual co-op's moving out of the bottom floor of that now. Now there's another very interesting building just here. It's got a Tudor front on it, and I'm guessing it's not a mock Tudor front, otherwise they wouldn't be actually keeping it. So what they've done is they've kept the frontage of it, and they're going to pin that to the new building going behind it. It'll be more flats again and shops at the base of the building. So I'm going to say, is it a 1500 building? Can anybody confirm that? Davis Castle there, and I think just the left hand side of this Tudor building was a Davis Castle as well. So we can see Wilko here, and I think that was Woolworths in the past, or it was somewhere around here anyway. So just imagine the outer courtyard of the castle's now on the left hand side, or it could be to the right of me, depending on what's the real boundary line. But I'm going on that image I showed you on my computer, but I do recommend going on to the link for the actual video on Sheffield, because it shows you some fantastic images of Sheffield. Now this is Dixon Lane area. This was the walk down to the old rag and tag market. Now this was full of barrow boys shops, and look at it, deserted. Now if this had been at this time, what time is it? It's 12 o'clock Saturday. There'd have been thousands of people down here back in the 1950s. Now I think this building to the sideways Wilko's, I think this was the Norfolk Market Hall. I think it was just there, if I'm right. Somebody will probably correct me on that. So we'll just chase up the outer courtyard, where we've got B&M was British Home Stores. I can remember crossing that bridge as a kid. Don't think it's the same bridge that we crossed as though. So we've got King Street up here. you can see the old C&A building, and at the top end, which was originally Burton's Corner before the war, they were building the tallest building in Sheffield at 43 stories, King's Tower. So I'll just show you back down. So we're on Haymarket now. And we're approaching Fitzallen Square. You can see the old Marples there, cash shop. Got bombed in the war, and I think it was about 90 people lost their lives. They were sheltering in the cellars at the time. So here we had what was not Burton's Corner, this one was Dunn's Corner. So there was only one of these windowways that was a shop, which was Dunn's. There'd be about 4 or 5 different shops around this corner, exclusive shops, and now we've got tacky KFC in there. So there it's marking out Castle Gate, and here was Sheffield Stock Exchange. I'll walk across the road and get you a better view, but we're walking across Commercial Street, where I'm using these as lines. Whether the castle boundary was still left to me or right to me, I'm not 100% sure, but does anybody know? So there you can see, that was the old stock exchange with all the northern engineering companies listed on it. And now everything's in London. So London's been taking more and more power off us. Takes you down Commercial Street. So we're on the right hand side, outer courtyard, and whether, like I said, the exact line nobody knows, but we're in Fitzallen Square at the moment. So it is looking quite pleasant, but there's not enough people because nobody's using the bus station anymore. Got the old GPO building, now a university building. Now, where you can see the Admiral just there, we had a beautiful Barclays Bank, and then we had the News Theatre next to it. And how they got that, how they knocked down the Barclays Bank is beyond me. They said it was to widen Commercial Street. Then, you wouldn't believe it, the next thing was the News Theatre burnt down. Really convenient, and then they built that building. That was an old pub there. So somewhere, and this track is that we're getting really to the top of the outer courtyard. Then at this corner, we've got some steps down that take us down to Baker's Hill. Now Baker's Hill runs all the way through Fitzallen Square up to Flat Street, and I think Baker's Hill is actually buried under Flat Street, because Flat Street must have also been a lot lower, must have been 10 foot lower than it used to be. So we're now on Baker's Hill, which is the absolute top part of the castle, outer courtyard, and as you can see, Baker's Hill hits this blank wall, and I think Baker's Hill rose very slowly, actually underneath where Fitzallen Square is, right up to Flat Street. So if you look at that height of that wall, I reckon, imagine half of that height, and imagine that Baker Street, as it connected into Fitzallen Square, was probably half of that height lower than it actually is now. Baker's Hill, sorry. So we've got the Ponds Forge swimming baths just here. This will take you through into Pond Street bus station, and there you can see the new Vista flats for the students. So we're in the most top part of that outer courtyard, and you can see the Baker's Hill sign, and we've now got the castle on the left. and it could be slightly to the right of me. But this is the outer courtyard now. But you can refer to the original plan I showed you on my computer. And if you know any more information, please shout up. But it does get very interesting around here with history. We've got the modern part, Commercial Street, I think. Because if you look at the brickwork, it's very different to this part. I don't know when they actually widened it, but we're now on Sheffield Hill. Strange they call it Sheffield Hill and it's actually flat. Some very strange things in Sheffield, as though they messed about with the levels. Now this was a Scar pub in the 1980s. It's called the Barrow Boy. It's supposed to be reopening as a rag and tag, but it's nothing's happened. There's actually like a big railway arch behind here, and in the back of the railway arch you can see doorways and windows bricked up, so there's something not quite right here, as though you could go beyond whatever was in here and go further back. So I think a lot of this has been infilled in the past. Somebody even discovered what was it now, a Jeep in there, or a Range Rover or something, just been left in there. So here we've got Canada House. It was the headquarters of Sheffield United gas lighting company. Seems very exclusive for an energy company. It looks as though it was some sort of stately home in the past, and it's been repurposed to me. There you can see the sign for Sheffield Hill. Why it's called Sheffield Hill when we're actually on a flat slope? Very weird. I think the Corn Exchange is somewhere around here from my original shot of the plan for the old Castlegate area. So now we've got the old rag and tag market. I'll just show you the area. So just imagine this grassed area here was all outdoor stalls, and it preceded the sheaf market in the 1970s. Now, sort of to the left of me and straight between those two buildings was the Maltravers car park, but there was also people living in all these flats, so you can just imagine the volume of people that had come down here. So we've got the Norfolk Arms pub, and this is the bottom end of Dixon Lane. So imagine the outer courtyards on the left hand side of me again. And if I'm right, this was the old Norfolk Market Hall. So you've got Dixon Lane from the bottom end. So we're on the outer courtyard at the moment, and I'm going to just stand here now, imagining this outer courtyard on my left, and I'm going to just zoom up to there, and this is where the outdoor castle market is. And what I need to do is walk back up to there to carry on the journey. But just imagine this red brick building on the right hand side would have been the old sheaf market, and the River Sheaf runs under there. So just imagine the outer courtyards to the left of me or just to the right of me. And I'm actually now going to zoom round now to where the old Mudford's building is, and somebody pointed out to me the Mudford's building was somebody who sold tents. That's what it was used for at that particular point. So I'm just going to walk up to where that Mudford building is, and then that will become the actual stronghold of the castle again, so I won't be a minute. So we're now approaching where the outdoor castle market was, and it was really strange. One day I was coming back from ballroom dancing, I found two small dices on the floor around here, and I threw these dices and I got a double six. say no more. So here, this red brick building was the old Chief Market. I've just shown you from down there, and then you can see the Mudford building here. So if you can imagine, the River Sheaf's in a concrete culvert underneath here, and it probably comes down to where these billboards start. So you can imagine now, I'm just moving now from the outer courtyard to the main part of the stronghold of the castle. Now if you can imagine a straight line down here, or straight line-ish down here, down to where I showed you the River Sheaf coming into the River Don, that's the actual main part of the castle. So that's it, that's a tour all the way around Sheffield Castle. So that straight line I've just showed you comes down to here. So this is the River Sheaf just here-ish. And to the right hand side of me is, like I said, is the main stronghold of the castle. So I would have carried on with my video up there, but somebody approached me up there, and it's not a very nice area in the castle market area anymore. I've just seen a couple of policemen. If I see them again, I'll be chatting to them, because I like to know why they're not around. But people shouldn't feel uncomfortable in that area. So I explained to that person I wasn't videoing them, but whether they understood me full is another thing, if you know what I'm saying without me saying it. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed a tour around Sheffield Castle. It does need to be marked out, and I do think it could be lit up at night. Could we do a 3D image and make it this area iconic for Sheffield, because we should really be playing on our historical heritage. So that's it. Thank you for joining me on my tour of the boundary walls of Sheffield Castle.